Marriage Wine, AP. I thought the U.S. government was thrown into the Yemen situation, usually mostly by oil, of course, which motivates a lot of American policies, but also because of Al-Qaeda. I didn't hear Al-Qaeda mentioned once in today. Am I the wrong?
No, actually, I made a couple of references to it. Seriously, our approach to Yemen has been shaped in large part by our concerns about Al-Qaeda in the peninsula. But it is not the only reason we are involved in Yemen. But as I said, with the threat to the homeland, that we saw with the underwear bomber, with the other events that we've had, with the threat to the Yemenis, yes, there is a major counterterrorism concern. And that has, to a large part, driven our policy. But our policy is not exclusively counterterrorism. And we do make a mistake when we focus only on the counterterrorism side of the ledger. It is a broad-based policy. It is looking at how we use it on the political side, on the economic side, on the humanitarian side. But no one, I think, in this town will deny that counterterrorism isn't a critical element of our relationship.
So how are you doing on Al-Qaeda, and is the president capable of keeping Al-Qaeda at bay?
We have very good cooperation with the Yemeni government, but it is indeed a real challenge. There are large swaths of the territory of Yemen where the government has not been able to always exercise complete control. They are working hard to do that. We do have a training relationship with the counterterrorism elements of the Yemeni military. Saleh has been a cautious but a fairly determined partner over the last 2 years.
Let me add a little bit on that. Yemen's the main victim of Al-Qaeda. Yemen is the main victim of Al-Qaeda. Far more Yemeni security officers have died fighting Al-Qaeda than anything that's happened in the United States from Yemen. I would add that the statement that Yemen doesn't control all of its territory, we got to be careful about that, and that's one of the points I was really hitting. Politics in Yemen are about deliberative politics. You don't have state control out there like you do in another state. But in order to have deliberative politics that work, you've got to have legitimacy, and that's what has broken at this point. And that's why I emphasize bringing a diverse set of regional powers together in some sort of agreement to disagree so there can be cooperation. This is the key thing. Because I don't think you're going to get what we see as an ideal state where the center controls everything. That's just not what Yemen's about.
I would just make one quick point on that, which I think is, when we talk about Yemen, I think Al-Qaeda is our biggest concern. It's not the biggest concern for what's going on inside Yemen. And I think when we're talking about Yemen, terrorism is our biggest concern. It's not the biggest concern for what's going on inside the country. And I think actually you can look at water. More people kill each other fighting over water in Yemen than are killed by Al-Qaeda.
Yeah,
right? So I think it's.
I'm just saying.
So I think we often, when we're talking about Yemen, we want to have the dialogue be all about terrorism and Al-Qaeda, which is not only is that wrong, but that will lead to a worse situation if that's how we deal with this.
I think we're going to pair questions together because we're short of time. There's an individual with blue shirt here and the man behind it. We only have one wireless, so excuse us for being short on mics.
I'll stand up. Thank you for your comments. This question is for the panel. It seems like the song?
Yep.
Okay. It seems like this discussion we're having right now is like rearranging the deck chairs in the Titanic with the problems that are facing Yemen in terms of running out of water, population growth, and running out of oil, which the government depends highly on for the vast majority of its revenue. What kind of changes need to come out of these protests, and what needs to emerge in order for there to be an effective government that addresses these problems? Thank you.
And then we'll take the gentleman just behind.
Yes, Dan Green, Washington Institute for Near East Policy. I was wondering if you could address a little bit how Al-Qaeda and Arabian Peninsula's motivations are changing or not changing by the protests, and also how the tribes that are sheltering Al-Qaeda, how they might be adjusting their calculations as well.
First, just a few comments. The tribes, I don't see the tribes as helping Al-Qaeda. The discourse between the government and the tribes have changed and moved. You'll find tribes defending their rights. You'll find them defending due process. You'll find tribes fighting what they consider to be unfair abuse by the government. And if it's related to an anti-terrorism policy, then it looks like it's supporting Al-Qaeda. It's not supporting Al-Qaeda, it's supporting tribal rights, it's supporting people's rights in that sense. And you also saw a transition in the discourse, and particularly in those eastern northern tribes. You saw at first where they said, well, Al-Qaeda's not here. And then you said, well, they are here, but we're not the state policemen. And then there was kind of like, these guys are a problem. And so, I mean, there's an evolution that goes on. There's a back and forth, and it's not one thing. Then, the Titanic. Yemen needs institutionalization. The key for the economy, it's going to be a more diversified economy. Yemen depended on worker remittances, and then it went to oil. Now it's going to be a much more diversified economy that needs domestic Yemeni investment, and that's the key thing. And what do the private investors in Yemen need? They need stability. They need guarantees that their investments are going to stay there, okay, that they're not going to be threatened. And in this, you need institutional securities. This is why I keep emphasizing that there has to be a set of rules of the game that everybody agrees upon. The one indicator, it's not going to be foreign investment, it's not going to be increased foreign aid. The one indicator that you want to look at that Yemen's turning around is Yemeni investment coming in rather than going out. When Yemen private investors are coming in, we've got it. In order for that to happen, we need a wide political settlement that underpins institutions that can really do it.
I think the only point that I have is that, and I think the big challenge when we're looking at Yemen is how do we build this relationship between the Yemeni government and the people, right? How do we build the Yemeni government to have more capacity and be more responsive and deliver more services and be more institutionalized? And how do we get the Yemeni people to feel that they have a greater stake in what's going on? And this is not for us to decide, number one, right? But also, I think this is not an easy process or a fast process. And the fact that Yemen has probably not ever been a really unified state like people want to talk about. This is going to go on for a very long time. And this is not even just a problem that we see in Yemen. This is going on all over the world in lots of places. This is a challenge, as we look forward for the next way too many years.